Welcome to the Level 4 review of IELTS writing, focusing on Task 1 temporal graphs or change over time. When we look at the graph, we need to consider three basic questions. We can see that this is a bar chart, and when we look at the overall trend for each country, we look at the beginning, and again we look at the ending. What is the difference between them? The trend for China is up. What is the trend for Japan and for India? We can see that China and India are similar, have similar trends, while Japan has a different trend. To put this into paragraphs, we're going to make 4 paragraphs. Why are China and India our first 2 paragraphs of the body? It's because they have a similar overall trend, whereas Japan has a different overall trend. Let's look at the introduction and the first sentences of each body paragraph. The first sentence of the introduction gives us the basic information of the graph. The second sentence is the overall trend, which is the most important information. Note there are no details in this overall trend. From the overall trend, we can then write the first sentence of each body paragraph. The first sentence of body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and body paragraph 3. These are all the same information as we can find in the overall trend. If we look at body paragraph 1 in detail, we can see that the first sentence introduces the topic and describes the overall trend. Then we start the description with the beginning. We describe the main change points and finally the end point. For body paragraph 2, it's the same, except that now the first sentence compares the overall trend. Then we have the start, the changes, and again the end. Body paragraph 3 compares the overall trend, and we have start, changes, and end. For organisation and coherence, we need to think about using a variety of linking words. We're going to use while or whereas to show the difference between these two. And when we want to say one thing happened after another, we will use language like this. Also important for organisation and coherence is not using exactly the same words each time. The subject is the amount of rice grown. We can also say it, the amount of rice, the amount, and the figure. Here are useful verbs and adverbs. Usually we are looking at past tenses. When we look at the adverbs and adjectives, 3 of these are for a big change, 3 for a medium change, and 2 for a small change. Looking at no change, we have 3 there. Fluctuated is for up and down, peak is for a sharp top, and plateau for the flat top. Again, looking at vocabulary, it's important not to just use the same verbs all the time. So we can see many different ways to say the same thing. If we look at decreased, we can see again different ways to say it. We have stood at for the beginning, began at, started at, And for no change, we have, again, 3 different ways to say the same thing. In terms of grammar, it's important to use some complex grammar, such as the relative clause, which were China, Japan, and India, or a that clause. For example, it is clear to see that. We can also use sentences joined together with after which, because this gives us complex grammar. We should also use a variety of sentence structures, such as there was, and again, our relative clauses. One last one to mention is the before ing, which is also a grammar, complex grammar. When you're writing the report, think about these things. If you have more time, check these also. This is the task that you will look at in the following exercises. Analyze the task, write your report, and then work through the following exercises.